让我们用最热烈的掌声来欢迎 Welcome Mr. Gori。
Ni hao, thank you. Hello everyone. Thank you very much for having me. First, I'd like to thank you to Chairman Lee, the FPAT Board of Directors, General Secretary Brian, for inviting me here for this celebration. So thank you very much. It's an honour to be here with all of you in the audience here today, and thank you very much for listening to my talk. I'm going to be talking about what the future holds, but before I do that, I just want to obviously pay a special thanks to the 20th anniversary. If I could have the next slide, please. Obviously, we've met all the past chairmen of FPAT and the inaugural chairman who brought the CFP certification to Taiwan. So thank you very much. It's a great privilege that we're able to have the certification here. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Noel May in the middle, who was the founder of FPSB Limited out of Denver, US, and helped obviously bring the certification here. So congratulations very much. It's an honour to share the 20th anniversary with all of you, with FPAT, all the past chairmen and the board of directors and the staff. It's a great privilege and honour, and congratulations to all of you for the 20-year celebration. Thank you. Next slide, please. So what are we going to talk about? A little bit about who we are. So hand up if you've heard of FPSB before. I'm assuming probably many of you don't understand what I'm saying, but FPSB, if you've heard of that, put your hand up. I'll talk a little bit about who we are. What does the future hold? We heard from the General Secretary Brian in terms of some of the trends and research, so I'll share a little bit of that as well. Building awareness, why become a CFP professional, and obviously I'm happy to also take some questions at the end of this session. Next slide, thank you. Next slide again. So who are we? So firstly, FPSB Limited is the global body for certification, for CFP certification. We issue the license of CFP certification all around the world. We are a professional standard-setting body. We set the standards for financial planning globally, and we work with all the associations around the world to bring certification to the people. And we have that certification at this stage in about 27 territories. Next slide, thank you. I know you've already seen the world map, where we are, where we're located around the world. You saw that presentation with Brian. As I mentioned, in 27 territories, it's my job to continue to grow the number of CFP professionals around the world, and we'll look to do that. What's fantastic is that there are 213,000 CFP professionals around the world. And just to put that into context, there are more CFP professionals than there are CFAs, which some of you may be aware of CFA, the credential. There are more CFP professionals around the world than there are CFAs, and it's our job to continue to grow that. Next slide, thank you. Like FPAT, you saw the growth of CFP professionals going up every year. Well, the good news is that that's a trend that's replicated around the world. The certification growth numbers continue to grow over the 20 plus years that FPSB has been formed. FPSB is also 20 years old. And as I mentioned, at the end of 2022, 213,000 CFP professionals. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but can I ask for a show of hands? Maybe someone can translate. Put up your hand if you're a CFP professional. So congratulations, you're part of the 213,000 CFP professionals around the world. Next slide, please. You've already seen this. This is FPAT's numbers in terms of the number of CFP professionals here in Taiwan. and it continues to grow up, up, and up. It's going to go very high, which is good. He did mention that he's trying to catch up to Australia. The chairman mentioned I'm moving to the US. So that's the US has almost 100,000 CFP professionals. So that's a bigger challenge for Brian. Next slide, thank you. So what does the future hold for financial planning? Very important question. Some of you might be having this question, asking this question yourself. Some of you are probably living it in your business when you go to work every day in terms of what's the future going to hold. I don't have a crystal ball, but what I do have some data and research which might be useful. Next slide, thank you. So what we know is that from the research we have conducted for CFP professionals around the world, over 12,000 CFP professionals contributed to this research, including some of you here. And they told us that some of the key attributes that need to remain in place in order to continue the success of the future of financial planning and CFP certification include the following. Trust. Trust is very, very important. You can trust technology. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But what people really trust is the person, human beings. So trust is very important. Communication. Communication, communication. Everywhere I've been, and in my own personal experience, the number one reason something goes wrong is because of communication. Not because somebody intentionally did something wrong, not because somebody was deliberately trying to do the wrong, not listen. What they didn't do was communicate. What is it that I'm doing? What is it that you need? So understanding, listening to the consumer is very important. Professionalism, the certification marks brings a high level of standard, which equates to professionalism. And again, this is very important. We can't drop the standard. And compliance, knowing the rules of the game. Every territory has different laws. Every territory has different pension standards. Every territory has different requirements in tax, for example. And this is very important in terms of the certification mark being relevant, that it is always on top of those requirements. Next slide, thank you. In terms of ensuring the future, what is it that we need to continue or to add? And again, some of this was mentioned by Brian. There's been studies in the US. This is based on CFP research done by CFP professionals all around the world. And the areas, the 5 areas that CFP professionals have said we need to work on, we need to improve on in order to future-proof the profession. Technology, obviously that's an obvious one. Human skills, the soft skills. I don't know if you use that phrase here, but in Australia we say soft skills. You can have all the technical knowledge, but it's your soft skills that makes the difference. Consumer demand, and this is an important one. If consumers don't seek out financial planning services, if there's not a need for it, then that's a problem. So ensuring there is a need, but there's more to it, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Raising awareness and professional development. And I'll go through each of these in a little bit more detail. So I can change the slide for me, please. So the research told us that 50% of CFP professionals say that technology will impact the work you do with clients. 43% expect more than half of your client meetings will be digital. So technology is going to impact the future of financial planning. How it's going to impact and whether it's going to be positive or negative depends on us. If we embrace technology, it will help you be more efficient, more effective, reduce the costs of delivery, and reach more consumers. And we saw that already over the last couple of years, that digital meetings is now commonplace. Every financial planner that I know, every CFP professional will do some meetings digitally. Next slide, thank you. Most of you believe, 87% believe that fintech or technology will help you. It will. I remember, and again, I apologise, I know that some of these stories may not hit the mark, but 10 years ago, when I was in FPA Australia, I had technology companies come to me and say, you will be out of business in the next 3 years because robo-advice will take over financial advice. Now, obviously that didn't happen. What happened was after 3 years, they came knocking on the door again and said, we need to work with your people because it's together, it's how it works. We actually can't replace what you do. Now, AI is obviously another level than robo-advice and fancy calculators, but even still, it can never replace the human element that you bring to the job. Next slide, please. So, increased technology will help establish and define your client relationship. Think of all the things that technology can help do faster and quicker so that you have more time to spend with your clients and understanding their situation. Analyze and access and collect information. So the analysis of the data, but also the analysis of your client situation. I'm not sure what the terminology used here, behavioural finance or psychology of financial planning, but that is becoming a key component of the training and competency for financial planning going forward. And I'll talk a little bit about how we've changed our standards to cater for this. But your understanding of your client, how he or she behaves, what motivates her or him, and what allows them to sleep at night is the key part of what you will do going forward, more so than the numbers. Hope that makes sense. So it's the client relationship, the trust, and your understanding. Every single person is different, yes? Nobody is the same. And that's the difference, and that's what you bring to the table. The technology will do all the data analysis, will do all the client information, financial information. You'll have all that at your fingertips. It's what it means to your client. That person in front of you is going to be so different to the next client that walks into the door, and that's the important difference going forward. Human skills. So, CFP professionals to embrace human skills, collaborating with clients to set and achieve financial goals. I said this is the number one goal or objective for CFP professionals. And technology will help you do that better. I remember when I completed my certification exams, I had to do the whole financial plan by hand and use spreadsheets. I had no calculators, no software, fancy software. And if you think about the amount of time it takes you to put together a financial plan, 10 years ago, 5 years ago to now, and what it's going to be like in the future, that's just going to mean you're going to have more time to actually speak with your clients, listen to your clients, and learn from your clients. And so therefore, collaboration and trust is most important. Yes, please change the slide. Some of the important topics, 81% of CFP professionals indicated these are the important issues or topics that are going to impact. And I think this is true around the world, but in particular here, financial issues relating to aging, estate planning, coaching. So what you're saying, or what CFP professionals are saying, is that we all have an aging population. And so therefore, clients or consumers are needing advice and support in respect to an aging population. Estate planning. Now, estate planning, the transfer of your wealth and assets from yourself to your next generation, to your dependents, is a very, very, very big issue that many people want resolved. They want to make sure that their assets are transferred to their family and not to the state, right? And to avoid any or as least amount of tax as possible in respect to that process. And so the role of CFP professionals is going to be very important. I want to touch coaching, this one here. Coaching. I'm not sure, again, if the terminology translates here, but coaching is more about, and this again is a slight difference that I think is going to happen in the future for CFP professionals, is that once you develop the plan and the client agrees to that financial plan, the most important part of your role going forward is going to be supporting the client to actually implement the plan. And we term it as coaching. So does anyone here, I don't know if someone can ask this question, does anyone here have a personal trainer for fitness? So anybody can go to the gym, anybody can use, their watch or the treadmill, but most of us lack the discipline to do it all the time. Most of us lack the discipline to do it in a way that makes sense, right? You can go on the treadmill for 20 hours, for 5 or 6 hours, and you can be worse off as a result of being on the treadmill if you don't do it properly. So financial planners and CFP professionals in particular are going to take on the role of your financial coach to ensure that your clients actually deliver the plan, implement the plan as you have prescribed it, so that they stay on track. And so it's the discipline that you will instill as part of what you do going forward that's going to be a big difference. Again, technology can tell you, oh, you must spend less or you must do this, but the technology can't be there checking in and at a human level connecting with you about whether or not that's possible. Is that possible for you in your life? That is the challenge. Thank you. Next slide. So again, this is another graph that really talks about the issues that clients are facing. I think we've covered most of these. The one for retirement, aging population, I've talked about. Retirement security and tax management are the other ones. They always come up as common themes around the world in terms of what clients are looking for. Of course, no one wants to pay tax, but if you have to, pay as least as possible. And again, that tax management's really important. Next slide, thank you. Okay, now this slide is talking about what CFP professionals have said to us that's important for them in terms of their future development and also for future-proofing the certification marks. So once you have the CFP marks, of course, you need to maintain those CFP marks. Your CFP marks need to mean something, stand for something, and be relevant as they were the first time you obtained them. And so the number one thing that CFP professionals have said that they need or want is continuing education and professional development. And this has specifically come up in respect to the changing, fast-paced changing landscape of financial markets. Think about crypto assets and sustainable finance, digital currencies, etc. This is going to be, CFP professionals said, we may not necessarily want to recommend these things, but we need to understand them. We need to understand what's going on, the impact, and be able to have the conversation with our clients about what this all means, even if we're not going to recommend them. Shifting client service to a holistic model. So even though it's a bit of a chicken and egg, again, I don't know if that translates here or not, but a chicken and egg thing in terms of many consumers need a financial plan. They need a holistic plan. But most of us are time poor. and we have a particular problem that we want you to solve for right now. And we're not really thinking about the future. But most CFP professionals know that they need to think about the future and think more comprehensively. So being able to assist a client to see the bigger picture, again, is an area of CFP professionals' focus. How do we deliver on what the consumer wants, but as the professionals ensure we have our eye on the holistic program? Thank you. Next slide. This is the good news story. The data we have, both from consumers and from you as CFP professionals, is matching, which is 92% agree or strongly agree that consumer demand is going to increase in the next 5 years. So we don't have a demand problem in financial advice. And I'm talking globally, but probably here as well. What we have is a supply problem. We do not have enough CFP professionals to service the true global market demand for financial planning services. It's a little bit more complicated than that. It's not just a simple supply result that will change that. I mean, there's awareness. There's, people are again not aware of CFP professionals as well, and there's access. So there's a few things there, but if you just look at the pure numbers, we have 213,000 CFP professionals, but there are millions of consumers that are demanding financial planning services around the world. So the good news is for you and for prospective CFP professionals, you're not going to be sitting around doing nothing. You have a lot of opportunity and you will be very busy as a result of the needs of consumers. And think about even the environment that we're in at the moment. Cost of living pressures, inflation, economic uncertainty, all those things actually relate into or equate into the need for your services. Some people might think they can't afford it, they can't access it. These are other challenges we need to deal with in terms of being able to ensure consumers can access your services, but the demand for them is without question. Next slide, thank you. The greatest impact, so I talked about a supply, we have a supply problem. That is being compounded by the fact that we have an aging population. That aging population isn't just the global community, that's actually the CFP community as well. We are unfortunately getting older, and our challenge is how to encourage the next generation to become certified, as well as to become your clients or clients of CFP professionals. It is a dual challenge. If we can win the hearts and minds of consumers, next generation consumers, to seek the services of CFP professional, well, we need to make sure we have CFP professionals to be able to do that. Again, I'm not sure if this translates, but most people buy with their eyes. So, if you are an older person, you're likely to want to see an older person. If you're a younger person, you are likely wanting to see a younger person because you think that person understands me. So if we don't have more younger CFP professionals, then that's going to be harder to service that younger generation. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, so shaping the profession. So if we can go to the next slide for me. This is looking at some data. Next slide, thank you. This is looking at some data in respect to and work that we've done regarding our standards. So I think the Chairman Lee mentioned this. FPSB Limited, our board of directors and the network have approved the new global standards in financial planning. So these are standards that we say are standards not just for CFP professionals, but these are the standards that all financial planning professionals should uphold to, but specifically to CFP professionals as part of that. So these are global standards that were approved approved at the end of last year. They've been launched to the world as of April this year, and there's effectively a 2-year transition into these standards. Next slide. The main or one of the main changes to the standards is actually the framework in which we now govern financial planning. And effectively, those standards have gone into three components. The knowing, so the elements of knowing in terms of what do you need to know. This is the knowledge component. So what is it that you need to know? This is the academic side of financial planning. Then we have the doing. What's the practice? The financial planning, 6-step financial planning process, the process of building a financial plan and delivering a financial plan, the process of engaging with your clients. So that's what we call doing. And then we have being. Being is being a professional. That's the ethics. That's your client first principles. That's saying that this is what sets me apart really from those who aren't certified, is that I commit to my clients and I commit to the profession. That's being. So we have those as the three pillars of the standards. This will inform a number of things. The knowing part in particular, and also the doing, will inform the future training and competency framework for education providers in delivering the training and education going into the certification exam. Also, it will influence the financial plan assessment. And then, of course, the doing and being will also come into focus in terms of the disciplinary side of the standards. You know, are CF professionals adhering to the standards of practice? Are they adhering to their professional obligations? Can I go to the next slide? Go back, sorry. So if you can go back for me. So in terms of some other elements of the standards that's new that I wanted to highlight, one is that under the knowing and doing components in particular, we have introduced what's called the psychology of financial planning. Now this effectively is, again, I'm not sure if you use the phrase psychology of financial planning or behavioural finance, behavioural economics, but this is the part about the human skill to understand your clients. What motivates them, what scares them, how are they going to react, what is their true risk tolerance when it comes to, you know, financial matters and investing. And so psychology of financial planning now is going to become and is being included as a core component of teaching and learning to become certified. You will not be able to, and in some jurisdictions it's actually legislated that you must have training in psychology of financial planning. We're introducing it as part of the certification program as a way forward for both prospective CFP professionals, but also we're going to be asking all existing CFP professionals to undertake this learning as part of your continuing professional development. It is really important, and I think it's only going to grow in importance. You know, and in fact, you might find in the future more students coming from psychology than finance into financial planning, as an example. And so, look, the final point here is, and also we've introduced more requirements for learning in terms of the new areas of finance that may not necessarily be regulated, such as crypto assets and other unregulated assets that, again, as I mentioned before, you may not want to provide advice on, but you want to understand and learn. And so this is becoming, it's been now embedded into the standards as well. Thank you. Next slide. So look, awareness is, as I mentioned, a critical component. I think if you were to ask me, Dante, what is the number one priority for you as in this role at FPSB, the number one priority is globalization. And that is globalization of awareness, of certification, awareness of financial planning, and awareness of the CFP brand. Like, awareness is the number one priority for us. So building awareness of the certification program and what it means to consumers, what it means to you, what it means to regulators, what it means to the media, what it means to everybody. Like, that is the number one priority for us. If you think of, and again, I'm not saying we're ever going to reach these heights, but if you think of certain brands, they're synonymous with what they do. And I'm thinking of Apple. You know, when you think of a tablet, or you think of a phone, you're thinking of Apple. When you're thinking of financial planning, where it is my ambition that you only then think of CFP certification. They have to be synonymous with each other. One is not different. CFP is the standard, but financial planning is what we're all about. And so they have to be one and the same. And that's the goal here, that in terms of awareness. Next slide, thank you. The main stakeholders for awareness, of course, is consumers. You know, without consumers, we don't have clients, we don't have a business. But also, there are equally other important stakeholders. Firms, institutions, banks, employers. People that say and see the value in saying, look, I don't just want to hire anyone to work for my firm. I want to ensure that that person's certified. For me, that's important. Why? Well, because they treat my customers better, they make more money for me, they're less of a compliance risk, etc., etc. The CFP marks has to stand for certain benefits for firms, and in turn, that returns to them a better return for them, not just financially, but in terms of consumer satisfaction, trust, confidence, retention, etc. Regulators are important as well. We can't control regulators. You can't even, don't even bother trying, but you need to be at the table. I think someone said to me once, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. So therefore you want to be at the table because you don't want to be on the menu. And if you can help, shape, influence, avoid, then great, but you can never control. And then of course professionals. You know, we're a community. You know where awareness starts? Awareness starts with you. Awareness starts with events like this. You know, having the pin, having the CFP marks against your name on your business card, on your premises, on your business, on your stationery. Every time you talk to a client, the way you introduce yourself, that all helps build awareness. I've had, in Australia, I would have a CFP professional come to me and say, nobody knows I'm certified. And when I looked at his business cards and I looked at his website, and he doesn't tell anybody he's certified. I said, if you don't tell yourself, tell other people you're certified, why should I be telling people you're certified? So this is a collective project. We have to do our part and create the global awareness. You need to do your part and create the local awareness. Next slide, thank you. In terms of building that global awareness, and I have to say, you know, Chairman Lee has done a fantastic job in terms of the Global Financial Planning Day and Money and Global Investor Week here in October. I think it's been 6 years now, and I know that's just grown from strength to strength. This will be the 7th year that we've partnered with IOSCO to host World Financial Planning Day, which is held during World Investor Week. So during World Investor Week is a week-long activity of talking about the importance of investor education to consumers. One of those days, and it's normally the Wednesday in the middle of the week, is purely dedicated to World Financial Planning Day. And that's something that FPSB was able to put in place with IOSCO. So all the regulators around the world celebrate World Investor Week and World Financial Planning Day on the Wednesday. And obviously here, you guys do it really, really well. And it's something that I think that can be replicated in other territories. But that's our way of ensuring awareness of certification and financial planning to the global community through regulators, for the regulated community, and then the consumer awareness that's generated from those campaigns. We're also, one of my goals is to strengthen our partnership with the OECD. I was very fortunate that I worked alongside the current president of, or secretary of the OECD, who's an Australian/Belgium individual, Matthias Cormann. He's head of OECD, and we're looking to strengthen our partnership. And Global Money Week is a financial literacy campaign, or financial campaign to improve financial literacy, I should say. That's also a global campaign. And it's run by OECD, and we'll be doing that. So effectively every year we'll have a campaign in March and a campaign in October, which are global, and increasing the awareness and education of financial planning to regulators and the general public. And that's something that will continue to grow, and I'm hoping, you know, this thing will just continue to grow and grow and grow with the support of all the countries around the world, and hopefully that will be something that will help improve and increase the awareness of certification to consumers as part of those activities. But of course we need to do more. Can you change the slide, please? We need to do more. Oh no, go back. I think I don't have a slide on this one, but we are doing more in respect to research. So in July this year, we will be releasing some global research. We partnered with a research firm to survey 15,000 consumers around the world in 15 countries. And the results so far tell us that CFP professionals come out on top in all the metrics. And this is really, really important because it's consumers saying that there's a difference between obviously getting no financial advice to getting financial advice, but there's actually a difference between getting financial advice from anybody versus getting advice from a CFP professional. And the CFP professional metrics prove that certification, standards, client first means something, not just in a feel-good way, but in terms of evidence around data and satisfaction. Consumers say they feel better. Consumers say they're better off. Consumers say they trust more CFP professionals. Thank you. Next slide. And so look, this effectively is, you know, what are the benefits of being certified? I think I've covered most of these, but if you go off to the next slide for me, please. I think this is just to reinforce. Some of you in the room might say, you know, you may have been certified 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or in fact maybe even 20 years ago as part of the first cohort. You may ask yourself, what were the reason that I was certified back then, is that still the same reason why I maintain my certification today? They may be different. But the 5 main reasons why you are certified or remain certified is that it sets you apart. It's your differentiator. In many countries, anybody can be a financial planner, but not everybody can be certified. And that is a big difference. It's internationally recognised. It is the only standard, it's the only certification that has a global presence, a true global presence. The opportunities that come with certification, as we talked about before, continuing professional development is very important. Our research tells us that employers prefer it. And the most important reason is because it demonstrates a commitment, a client first to your clients. And the clients know that. That's what the research tells us. Okay, thank you. I think next slide, I think that's where at the end. So that's my presentation. I really, really appreciate you listening to me speak in English. And I know that many of you may not have fully understood what I said, but I really appreciate your attention in any case. I know you'll get a translation of it, but I do really appreciate it. And again, it's been a fantastic privilege and an honour for me to be here to help celebrate the 20th anniversary. So congratulations again to FPAT, and congratulations to all of you for committing to the certification. So thank you.
Thank you for your speech.